Hello everyone, and welcome to this tutorial for the standalone Arduino QR code generator. This is how the project will look when it is finished. Basically, we have a small switch button over here that when we push and hold it for a couple of seconds, it will turn on the Arduino, it will show you a QR code on the small screen, and then it will shut it off after 5 seconds. I will show you how to build this project step by step, so let's get started. So what you will need for this project is, of course, an Arduino. I'm using an Arduino Uno R3. It's not exactly an Arduino, it's an Elegoo Uno R3. This is basically just a cheaper version of the Arduino, but it basically does the same thing. Another thing we'll need is a relay. What a relay does is basically you connect it to ground and VCC, and also it has an in pin. Basically what that does is when the in pin has a voltage, it will actually close these two connections from here. So that will help us to enable the auto shutdown feature. This one over here is a DS3231 module, you can say, and what this does is actually remembers the exact time that you set it. This battery will allow it to remember the time and date that you set it when you first started it. So we will be able to know the exact date and time even if you shut down the Arduino at any point. You will of course need a bunch of wires. Preferably you would also need a breadboard. I already have a breadboard with these bridges attached here. And also an LED and a small resistor so you don't burn the LED, and of course a switch button over here. One other thing you will need is a small screen on which to show everything. This screen is an 1.8 inch SPI, and SPI is basically an interface. There are different kind of screens you can get. But if you get a screen with an SPI interface, this will basically should work also for this project, even if it's a different size. Another thing we will need is a bunch of batteries. This will help us power the Arduino. Here I have 4 batteries which are 1.2 volts. So that's all. So what we want to do first is to create the auto shutdown feature. The idea is to power the Arduino through pressing a button at first. Then when the Arduino finishes booting, we want it to switch the relay in a different position so it starts receiving power through the relay and not the push button. After some time, our code will tell the relay to switch back to the original position, and thus will cut its own power. One thing about how you can power an Arduino, the original way is to give it a voltage through the VIN pin and connect it to any of the ground pins that you have. So the VIN pin actually enables you to give it any voltage between, I think, 9 and 12 volts. So that's how you see different projects that have those big chunky batteries to power it up. And another way to do it is not the best way, but you can still do it, is through the 5 volts pin. Basically this is not recommended to do, but you can still do it and it works. What they recommend on the website is if you want to power for this 5 volts pin, you need to give it the voltage of 5 volts or 5.5 volts. So the 5.5 volts should be the maximum. In this project I actually have 4 batteries of 1.2 volts each, so that's 4.8 total volts. But that still does the job, and the project works as intended, so there's no problem in that. So this is how our first step of the project is actually going to look like. It might look a little bit intimidating, but if you take a look at the schematics, it's not really that hard to do. So what I have on the Arduino right now is just example program for blinking, and at the moment it doesn't actually have any kind of code for controlling the relay or anything else. So if we just push this button over here, it will actually turn on the Arduino. As you can see, it works and the blinking code is working. And now what we need to do is actually go to our interface and write the code to start using this little guy to shut down the Arduino. So let's get to our code here. We have the power time variable. This is the variable that's going to remember the number of seconds we have until we turn off the Arduino. Here we set it to 5. We're going to begin our serial baud rate with this value over here, because this is what our screen is going to use later. Since we cannot use the 5V pin for powering everything in our project, we are going to use the pin number 4 for that. So that's what we're doing here. This is where we set up our relay and the LED. So our relay is going to be on pin 7 and our LED is going to be in pin 2. We are going to write the relay to a low status that is going to merge those two connections, so the power will go through the relay and not through the button switch anymore. And we're also going to turn on the LED. In our loop here, what we're saying here is that if the power time variable actually goes to 0, then we actually turn off the relay and it's going to turn off the Arduino, and we also turn off our LED over here. So this delay over here is telling us that this code will run, and then it will wait for 1 second, and then it will run again and wait for a second more, and each time it will actually run, it will decrease our power timer with the value of 1. Okay, so after uploading the code to the board, we can actually test it out. So if we push the button over here and let it boot up, we see that the LED turns on, you can see the relay started working, and it auto shut down after a couple of seconds. So next we're going to look on how to install the DS3231 in the next video, and everything else that we've done in this part you can see in the description below.